Next letter in the section called The Seasoning, the 1970s. It is called No I in Black. Dear Dr. King, you should have seen my school. You would have been so proud. Edgar A. Guest Elementary in Northwest Detroit was awesome. The school was more than wonderful. We were a middle class elementary school. But the sad truth is, maybe the part you did not foresee was that by the time I was enrolled, most of the white people had already flown to the burbs, and there was just a handful of white students and teachers left. Anyway, the principal, Irma K. Green, was black. She was a beautiful and powerful queen. Tall, elegant, proper, graceful, sharp, smart, and strong. She was a true leader. She had an understudy, vice principal, Mr. Richardson, I think, who did not even come close to her. This was the first time I had seen a white man under the power of a black woman, and it was something to behold. She was not domineering in the arrogant and competitive sense. She was just good at what she did, running her educational institution. And she could not and he could not touch her. Even his posture conveyed his awareness of this relationship, and he never seemed to challenge her at any level. I did not consciously understand this as a child, but even as a child, I got the sense that she was undeniably in charge. And I am sure it registered subconsciously in me as some sort of equity factor. You also would have loved Mr. Clarence T. Eichelberger. He was the science teacher and the surrogate father to everyone. I need to say, I don't remember any of my classmates who were from single parents, so perhaps uncle is a better assignment. He was the best science teacher, so smart and so demanding. He was handsome, charismatic, and did not tolerate any drama. And his paddle was the biggest. Oh, yeah, corporal punishment was allowed in the Detroit public school systems throughout my entire tenure at Guest. I believe the laws were changed in the late 70s. Mr. Eichelberger was strong too, and he was not someone you wanted a paddle from. He, Mr. Banks, Miss Edwards, and Mrs. Allen, they were all quick to paddle. But we still had it all because our teachers were like parents, and they truly cared. One or two were questionable, but the majority did excellent work. They brought great honor to the role of teacher. We loved Mrs. Edwards, the librarian, Mr. Stiles, math, Mrs. Allen, English, Mr. Jeter, vocal, Miss Nakwacha, music, Miss Joanne Taylor, she was the hippest and we loved her, drama, Miss Snap, civics, Miss Armstrong, art, Mr. Veratio, PE. We even had a father of a local celebrity, Mr. Banks, economics. His son, Ron Banks, was a singer in the dramatics. Our history teacher was white, as were our PE and art teachers, but he was the scariest one of the bunch. It was rumored that he had moonlighted as a vampire host for a locally broadcast TV show called Sir Graves Ghastly on the VHF or UHF channel. It featured weekend horror movies like Frankenstein and Dracula. It didn't help that he was clumsy because of one leg being longer than the other. He would limp along, lopping one leg in front of the other, breathing with forced gasps of air and sweating irregularly. He could always you could always hear him coming before you saw him. He was notorious for getting angry and slamming books on his desk for attention. He was not he was unfortunately one of the least respected teachers, not because he was white, because everyone loved and behaved for Miss Armstrong and Mr. Horatio, but mostly because he was, in our eyes, crazy as hell. Our school lessons were layered with warnings of doing our best in order to prove we were good enough in the legend of Out There. There was Out there was the white man's world that did not want us to be equals, educated or not. Not next to them, not working with them, and certainly not befriending, dating, or marrying them. It was preached day after day, class after class, by teacher after teacher. Our Pledge of Allegiance was first, and then the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance. The preaching instilled, embedded, and eventually, occasionally inspired that the only way to survive was to be smarter and better than them. If we could not accomplish that out there, we would individually be responsible for casting shame on the race collectively. Because then, in these United States of America, there was no I in black. What went for one went for all. It was be your best because you were held to a much higher standard. Even if you met that standard, the most you could hope for was toleration. And with that toleration, you could expect to be met with indignation and disregard. And that was the setup. We were educated to fight for acceptance against real and proverbial resistance. A permanent state of underclass citizenship, or didn't our teachers know that? Like we did not have the freedom to just grow up and go out into the world. We had to be weighted down with the mental yoke of a full-time, and full circle guarded existence. Kind of like what you preached, but it was so enigmatic, so burdensome. The very thing they were trying to accomplish for us would also be the thing that straddled us down in the lower position, seeking approval and acceptance. But they did not, but they did what they knew to do and thought it was with our best interest at heart. These lectures would be accompanied by special events that showcase the Black struggle and the rise against all odds, or talent showcases in history, history, history. We did not have Black History Month. Every day was Black History. We would have musicals like Porgy and Bess and West Side Story, plays that included contemporary dances, poetry readings, and famous speeches in literature by you, Dr. King, Frederick Douglass, Paul Laurence Dunbar, James Baldwin, Paul Robeson, and Gwendolyn Brooks. It was a very intentional and rigorously scheduled school where excellence was demanded, and for the most part, we delivered. However, everything changed in 1976. The Southern busing laws had finally rolled north into the Motor City, and Guest went from being one of the best elementary schools in Detroit to a questionable middle school overnight. Dr. King, by the time desegregation laws were broadly implemented, most of the white people had already moved out of the city. I can recall just a handful of white students left at Guest: Raina, Rico, and Benjamin. We did not hold them necessarily as white kids. For us, they were more like misfits than another race. No one bothered them too much, and they were our friends. So that fall, when the yellow school buses pulled up curbside, a bunch of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade black hoodlums from I don't know what side of town got off. They were mad, already poised to be rejected by mutually angry whites. A few were armed with switchblades and brass knuckles. They came in like the 1st Battalion, ready to kick ass, and kick ass they did. Dr. King, we could not believe the anger they showed us, their own people. We were caught off guard and actually felt terrorized by some of them. This was socioeconomic warfare, the genesis of black-on-black crime, I'm sure. Well, maybe not, but it felt like it. We did not know where these kids came from, and we did not like them. Class was introduced in a very contentious and painful way, and it was a tough lesson. We went from being young, gifted, and black to being young, jilted, and black-eyed. There was one specific incident when we went on a field trip in the spring of 1977. We were walking along the trails of Kensington Park. Each time we encountered some white people, the kids started to beat them up. They just started swinging without any provocation. One of the white boys yelled for them to stop and ask, "What are you doing beating me up for? Or what are you beating me up for?" One of our kids yelled back, "Didn't you see Roots?" Pardon that. I had to turn some more light on. Lost my place. Didn't you see Roots? Okay, all of us can recognize the anger that surfaced watching that miniseries. It was one thing to read about slavery, but an entirely life-altering thing to actually see it enacted. To actually see it enacted so realistically and dramatically on television. So I understand how it made us all feel less than what we were. Seeing what we had previously read re-injured already undiagnosed, untreated, and unhealed wounds. I think many of us wanted to go out and start slinging and whipping. Roots was a powerful and indelible show, but those crazy boys were beating at white people in the suburbs, far away from home. We ditched them and ran back to find the teachers before the cavalry came back to retaliate or haul our black power asses off to jail. Dr. King, we were not operating on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We were shameful. I think we did not tell on them because we were relieved that we were not the victims, and the fact that we had to get back on the bus with them. It took a long while before the clash of the classes adjusted to normal, or did it? My best friends and I were graduating in the summer and off to Cass Technical High School. I worried, though, about my little brother's fate in our newly economically desegregated middle school. The next letter in the seasoning is called 50 Shades of Black. Dear Dr. King,